What did you take from Vladimir Putin's speech today?
Well, it was a very belligerent speech. As you said, he accused the West of everything that Russia's doing. He justified the war, the special military operation, by blaming the West for being about to attack Russia. What was particularly terrible, I thought, in this speech was his use of some phrases that come right from Hitler. He talked about national traitors as the people who opposed the war. And he said that Russia needed to go through a period of self-purification. So there are phrases in that I've never heard him use before. He obviously feels very cornered. This invasion has not gone the way he thought it would. He's doubling down, however. He's not holding out an olive branch. And he wants to explain to his people that the reason why they're feeling economic pain and will continue to feel economic pain is all because of the sanctions. He did say in this speech that the West would have imposed those sanctions anyway, irrespective of the special military operation.
I wanted to read this passage of what he said. He said, "The current situation is, of course, a test for all of us. I am sure that we will pass it with dignity through hard work, joint work, and mutual support. We will overcome all difficulties and become even stronger, as it has always been in the history of thousand-year-old Russia." Doesn't that history contain an awful lot of failed imperialistic adventurism?
It certainly does. It's a history of Russia expanding and contracting over hundreds of years, of failed imperial expansion, but then of, successful Soviet Union for a time until it collapsed 74 years later. Putin is very much a history man. He puts himself forward as someone who understands Russian history very well. But of course, this is not an accurate explanation of what has happened in Russian history. He sees himself in the mold of the czars who gathered in the lands after they had lost territory. So what he wants to do, obviously, is to take back the territories that Russia lost when the Soviet Union collapsed, foremost of them being Ukraine. That's what he's trying to do, and he's having a much harder time doing it than he thought he would.
And he told a lot of lies about the way Russia is treated in the world, and then specifically Russian individuals living outside of Russia. He said, in many Western countries, people are subjected to real persecution just because they come from Russia. They refuse medical care, expel children from schools, deprive their parents of their jobs, ban Russian music, culture, and literature. Do the Russian people believe that?
Well, unfortunately, a majority of the Russian people appear to believe what President Putin says, particularly those who only have access to state-run media. None of this happens to Russians abroad. I think it is true since the war broke out, you can read about some Russians who have been targeted by people in other countries, sort of blamed for what their country's doing. But unfortunately, as I said, the polling shows that a majority of Russians support this war, and they don't believe, or the special military operation, they don't actually believe that it's a full-scale invasion. And you have instances where people in Ukraine will call their family members in Russia and tell them what's actually happening in Ukraine, these horrible scenes that you were showing before, and their relatives just won't believe them, and they'll say, no, those are lies. We know that Putin's doing the right thing.
How surprised were you that Putin mounted this invasion?
I think most of us were surprised that he mounted a full-scale invasion. I think most people expected that it would have been a more limited, quote-unquote, operation to just take all the territory in the Donbass, those two regions of southeastern Ukraine where the Russians have been fighting since 2014. Having said that, our intelligence agencies and people who are military specialists who looked at what the Russians were doing as they surrounded Ukraine, they actually believed that there would be a full-scale invasion. They didn't believe there was any other explanation for this huge amassing of troops with the equipment that they had there. And of course, they were right. But I think most people just couldn't believe that a totally unprovoked full-scale invasion of a sovereign country would happen in the year 2022, and it has.